Barbershop fragrances. What is that? Now, if we're going to talk about barbershop fragrances, the first thing we need to talk about is the Aromatic Fougère. Now, the name of the olfactive group Fougère derives from the French word fougère, which is French for fern. Now, when you hear someone mention a barbershop scent, they are usually referring to an aromatic fougère, which is its technical term. Now, I say usually because the barbershop fougère has become a bit of a subgenre within the fougère family, and it represents scents that one would historically experience in a barbershop. Things like scented talcum powder, barbasol, disinfectant for razors, and more. Thus, the scent of these fragrances is typically associated with men, and more specifically, men who strive to present themselves as clean, sophisticated, and gentlemanly. It goes without saying that not all fougères are necessarily created to be barbershop fougères. They don't all carry that sentiment. I'll share a couple of those fragrances in a separate group at the end. Quick history on the Aromatic Fougère. The originator of this genre is Fougere Royale, which we will talk about in a bit. This came from the house of Houbigant in the late 1800s, but it was revisited and re-released in 2010, perfumed by Rodrigo Flores Roux. It is known as the original Aromatic Fougère, and it was the first fragrance that ever used coumarin. Coumarin comes from the tonka bean and other plants as well, and it can have a range of scents, being sweet and spicy and warm, but also can smell like freshly mown grass. Quite a variety there. That was corny. Now, there is a bit of a model and a formula for fougère. Typically, it'll have aromatic top notes like lavender or geranium, maybe even some citrus. It might have some florals in the heart, and the base tends to be woody, maybe mossy, maybe even leathery, and especially that coumarin, maybe even tonka bean. So as we've done before, I've split up a collection of fragrances that fall in this genre into 3 different levels, starting those just starting out, beginners into the fougère. We have intrigued, those who maybe have heard about it, maybe have sampled some, but you are looking to dive a little bit further in. And we have the enthusiasts, those who've been in it for a while. Maybe you're not a beginner with barbershops, but maybe there's some you still have left to experience, and you're looking for new experiences in the genre. Each of these levels are split up based on accessibility of scent and in some cases, price. But as I always say, sample them if you can, if they are interesting to you. This collection that I'm going to cover does not cover the entire history of the barbershop fougère. There's a lot of holes here. So if your favorite fragrance is not here, I hope this explains why. Nonetheless, I hope this video can serve as a valuable resource for the beginner and the enthusiast alike for years to come. Let's get right into it. Going to get through these as quickly as possible. For the starting level, those just starting out, first one up here is from Penhaligon's. This is a classic known as Sartorial. And this is meant to smell like basically a gentleman coming out of a barbershop with that freshly pressed shirt. Some people say it's meant to smell like a tailor's shop, the smells you would smell in a tailor shop, ironing shirts and the metal and things like that. I get all of that in here. It is a very complex fougère, but still one that comes off quite easy to wear. Very iconic smelling. There's a cleanliness from lavender. It's pretty fresh and a little soapy. You do have a little bit of sweetness from coumarin, tonka bean, but also honey and maybe even beeswax. I think both of those play a role here, adding a different type of sweetness to the genre. Not overly robust. It's not overly leathery or overly woody or dark, but it provides enough legs to give it that masculine grounding that you would expect from the genre. Sartorial is a standout. Very gentlemanly, pretty timeless as well. Definitely worth checking out. From Margiela, we have At the Barber's. This was one of the first fougères, first barbershop fougères, I should say, that I ever experienced. I figured it was going to be my signature scent, and I wore it quite a bit, as you'll see with the dent in this bottle. But then I discovered a whole lot more in the genre, and quickly this became a little bit boring. But I still can't discount the fact that it is highly accessible as a beginner's fougère, as an entry point. Smells like shaving foam. That's essentially what you're getting here. Standard formula, I'm not going to go into it all. There's a fresh, spicy quality to it. There's a clean, soapy quality to it. There's this almost creamy, sweet quality to it. And it has a nice leathery dry down. Again, not the most exciting, but perfectly sums up the genre in a very simple and digestible way. Perfect for a beginner. Definitely worth sampling. At the Barber's. Easy way to smell clean and refined. Now let's talk about the originator of this entire genre, Fougere Royale. Again, this is not the original version of it. I imagine it was a little different than this. They've perhaps modernized it, but it is a glorious fougère. Clean, herbal, fresh and soapy in a way, woody and mossy, very refined, definitely smells a little bit higher quality, a little bit more niche, perhaps than the Margiela I just talked about, but still quite accessible, maybe even a little bit more so than the Sartorial. May not last all that long, may not be the strongest scent, but this is gonna smell very clean, very easy to be around. It's gonna serve its purpose, which is to maybe be in an office setting or maybe just smell refined and sophisticated during the day in a way that does not get in everyone's face, because the kind of guy who wears this fragrance typically is not one who needs to be the loudest, most present person in the room. You're confident enough to not worry about that. That is Fougere Royale. This fragrance is a slightly different take on the genre, but still has enough of the elements to make it easily tied to the history of this fragrance genre. So it's not what I would consider an oddball. This is a Zaharoff signature pour Homme. It does have some odd elements to it that separate it from others. It does have a little bit of pear in here, adding an interesting kind of sharp fruitiness. It does have oud as it dries down, which is not typical of the genre, but it's very, very light in here. It's not really coming out all that much, just provides some grounding, but a lot of lavender. Lavender is one of the heaviest components of most fragrances like this, and it is not shy here. It functions the way that it's meant to. It can be a signature scent. So if you still have yet to check out this fragrance, it's kind of going down in history as not only a classic in its own right, but one that is spurred and originated an entire collection of beautifully unique fragrances that I love and many love as well. Do check this out. Gonna have a link down below. And we have another one from Houbigant. This one came out many years after the original Fougere Royale, but it is a fougère in its own right, definitely reminiscent of the barbershop style, and they call this Duc de Vivant. I think it came out in the 1980s. Originally, this was a gift from my friend Thomas, and very, very refined scent, but super easy to wear. Pretty light. It's not going to last a long time, but for the time it will be on your skin, it does smell quite sophisticated and kind of professional smelling. But it is kind of a simple take on the genre. There's nothing overly special about it. Soapy, clean and fresh, smooth, a little creamy and woody, easy to wear. Not going to be offensive at all. Maybe a little old school, but actually kind of timeless. It doesn't really remind me of the 1980s. The bottle surely does, but the fragrance not so much. Anyway, that is Duc de Vivant from Houbigant. Let's move up into our intrigue tier. These fragrances aren't going to be quite as accessible scent-wise as the other ones. And we even have one here that's here, not because it's hard to wrap your mind around, but it is a little expensive, even from discounters. And this is no surprise from this brand. We'll get to that in a second, but the first one up is from Cartier, Pas de Cartier from 1992. This is not for everyone. It is creamy, a little sweet, fresh and soapy, spicy, but there's something in here that is almost a little funky. Maybe cumin or something like that. There's a slight edge to this fragrance that is not going to be for everyone, but it makes it very interesting. I find it to be quite powerful for an eau de toilette, quite distinctive smelling, and also incredible quality for a designer fragrance. I've been talking about Cartier for a while, and I will continue so. This fragrance is incredible for where it stands now in relation to where it came out. Anyway, do check this out if you're looking for a slightly more interesting designer level Barbershop Fougère. Another one from the designer realm, Tom Ford, who has been pushing for men to smell like this for the past, 5 years or so with several releases. He did a whole Fougère collection. This is called Beau de Jour. And again, not for everyone. This one definitely smells a little old school. It represents fragrances like Zeno from Davidoff, which I used to have. I actually prefer this one because it has more presence to it. It has a little bit more personality, in my opinion, just a more dense quality as well. But still, the magic is here. It is iconic. It is definitive. There is a cleanliness here. There's a lot of oak moss though. In addition to the lavender, there's a mossy feel that gets dry and drier as it dries on your skin, which is not going to be for everyone, but I think it's a very distinctively authoritative scent in the air after it's been sitting on your skin 5-6 hours. There's a bit of an ambery warmth to it, especially as it dries down. Just makes it stick around longer and gives it a special quality in the air that's more than just soapy and fresh. But again, Not for everyone. Sample it first if you can. Long-lasting stuff too if you care about that. Beau de Jour from Tom Ford. From the house of Creed, and that is the reason why it's here in the second tier, because it is not cheap. So it may not be worth it to all of you to check this out because you may not love the house for some decisions they've made over the years, but this still stands out as one of my favorites from the house, and it's Viking. From 2017, I remember smelling this when it first came out, and I thoroughly enjoyed it because it was definitely a different take on the genre. Some people say it reminds them of things like Tiger Balm and Old Spice cologne or aftershave. I get where they're coming from with that, but it kind of makes it stand out among most fougères that are on the market today as modern releases. Very, very hot and spicy and fresh. Lots of mint in here, also lots of lavender, some citruses, very bright, very poppy, very clean and soapy smelling, but a lot of woods in the base here. Lots of vetiver, lots of sandalwood, maybe even some patchouli. It has a lot of legs to it. It smells pretty, definitively masculine, kind of an attention getter. And I think it makes you smell mature and like you got it all together, and you smell very confident when you wear this. If you're looking for that vibe, again, very, very fresh and spicy, lots of depth, but it could be overpriced for some, so get a sample if you can. Creed Viking, one of my favorites. Final fragrance for the Intrigue category is a fragrance that I think originally came out, I don't know, in the 1990s, something like that. They've kind of revisited it, re-released it, and have been trying to market it as a revival, at least from their eyes. This is Zhivago 24K for men. Similar to some of the others I've talked about, like the Houbigant, Duc de Vivant, like the Margiela, it does kind of serve as a standard formula of this genre. It is typically clean, soapy, fresh, lots of kind of creamy, woody depth in there, but this one is quite powerful. Almost too strong if you overspray it. It surprised me. And I think for that reason, it may not be for everyone. The scent is actually pretty accessible, but the presence of it is something to wear with caution because it can kind of sneak up on you if you're not careful. But overall, still gonna make you smell clean. Zhivago 24K. All right, let's get into the final category, the enthusiast category. At least we'll have a couple more we'll talk about after this that are peripheral. This first one up is in this category because it's quite expensive, but you're getting kind of a truly niche interpretation of the classic genre, high quality materials, artisanal perfumery at its finest from my friend Matthew Melig up in Canada. He calls this Canadian Gentleman. Now, it's gonna look differently than it does here. This is an older bottle, which he actually put my name on, which was very kind of him when he, I think, first created it, but he's since upgraded his aesthetic for the bottle design, if that means anything to you. Nonetheless, the scent, I imagine, is still the same. Quintessential fougère here, but so rich. A little bit more bottom heavy. You do have some darker notes in here, making it a little heavier, like castoreum, like incense. There's almost a dark resinous quality that might lean a little animalic, but really not all that much. Quite clean and fresh still, but nowhere near as bright as some of the others we've talked about. This is for the person looking for a very interesting and definitive take on the genre that everyone may not love and everyone may not think to want to wear, but still very much smells like a barbershop fougère. Very gentlemanly nonetheless, and you don't need much of it because it's quite powerful. That is Canadian Gentleman from Melig Perfumes. This one is here because it is quite expensive and it's a high quality scent. It may not be accessible to everyone because there is a little bit of a funk to it, which I happen to love. This is coming from Roger Parfum, his ode to the genre. He calls it Scandal. It is meant to be a men's sexy fougère. There's something that's supposed to be scandalous about it that gets your attention in a very provocative way. Ultimately, it smells clean, but a lot of personality here, a lot of complexity as well, which is nothing new with Roger. Man, citrusy and bright. For sure, almost mouth-wateringly so. Lots of herbs in here, kind of green, definitely lots of lavender, a clean soapiness. You do get a lot of oak moss, and there might be something slightly animalic or even kind of funky BO in a way that might not sound all that pleasant, but believe me, it works with the composition and it gives it personality and character. Now, they do have a Parfum Cologne version of this, which I also have, and I absolutely love. That one might be more accessible. I would probably put that one on the Intrigue tier because it's a little cheaper and it is decidedly brighter and more approachable than this, which is quite dense and again, a little bit more of an edge to it. But if you're willing to spend the money to get a sample, high quality stuff here for the enthusiast. Lovely, very refined, can be a signature if you want to smell like money. Scandal, pour on. Last one for the enthusiast tier. Again, not for everyone. Admittedly, I didn't love this when I first tried it years back, but since, I think it's an incredible scent and I think it is incredibly unique. One of the most unique takes on the genre, if you're asking me, but it's not for everyone. Quite edgy. This is from Homme. They call it Bracken Man. Oh man, this is incredible stuff. It's so spicy. Lots of cloves. Fougères typically have a spicy element. It could be black pepper, it could be pink pepper, it can be nutmeg, whatever it may be. This one is cloves and it's heavy on it. It's kind of a dry, almost stuffy, spicy quality to it, but mixed with the herbaceous, clean, slightly soapy, mossy quality that you come to expect from the genre, but so different. Very much in your face, quite powerful, and a little polarizing, but incredible composition. If you can learn to love it, it's gonna elevate your everyday life when you wear it. I might wear this today. I haven't chosen anything for the day. This might be what it is. Anyway, incredible fragrance, definitely in the enthusiast category, worth checking out if you want a fougère to challenge you. That is Bracken Man. Stay tuned, we got a couple left to talk about that are a little bit peripheral to the genre. The first of the oddballs here is coming from Nichane. I don't believe they made this to explicitly smell like a barbershop style fragrance, but it carries a little bit of the model with the formula of ingredients and the overall scent. It smells like this is what they're going for, but it's very modernized, very stripped down. This is called B612, one of my favorites from the genre. Clean, soapy lavender in a way, but more on the dry woody side. Lots of cypress, lots of cashmere wood. Dry, cozy, but overall clean. Very smooth. No spices here or anything like that. Very interesting take, very easy to wear, but odd. Not gonna smell like anything else in the genre. A very, very special fragrance. Get a sample. That is B612 from Nichane. And the final one, very, very odd take as well, but indisputably an homage to the genre. And you can even tell from the name. This is from Mosque Milano, relatively new release. They call it Sleight of Fern. So you can already tell with the fern what they're going for. This is a much more green take on the fougère. I think it has a lot of lentisque, also called mastic. It is a resin. It smells a little bit like turpentine. So it's a kind of an odd addition to the fragrance and it is quite upfront. Makes it a little strange and different. That is freshened by minty geranium. You have some herbs in here like thyme. There's a little bit of an almost fruitiness tucked away by fig. But the base is undeniably fougère. Lots of oak moss, a little bit of tonka bean in there, adding a slight grassy sweetness, maybe some birch wood, adding a smoky woody quality. Kind of hard to describe, but comes together as a very cohesive composition. Again, green, a little resinous and turpentine-like, but still fresh, woody, smoky, mossy, a little herbal, and a slight bit of sweetness in there. That's a little odd for the genre. If you're looking for something different, this could have gone in the enthusiast category, but again, a little bit odd, which I just had to include it in its own category. That is Sleight of Fern. All right, that was a lot of fragrances. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think down in the comments. If you've tried any of these, I want to hear about it. Please subscribe if you have not. Like the video if you've liked the video. And thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.